The priests finish Isis's morning hymn, but in the temple's corners, something else continues. An echo, not bouncing off walls. Echoes don't last this long. It's a second voice, feminine, repeating each word half a breath behind. The junior priests pretend not to hear it. The senior ones know better. They leave offerings where shadows gather thickest. Withered flowers, cracked mirrors, letters never sent. Not for the goddess of magic they just praised. For her shadow, who repeats every prayer but receives none. This is ancient Egypt uncovered, and this is Nephthys. The Shadow Sister, who inherited nothing but death. Egyptian mythology gave every god a domain. Isis had magic, Thoth had wisdom, even Set, the murderer, had storms and chaos. Destructive, yes, but undeniably his. The Egyptians understood that every force, even violent ones, needed recognition. But the hieroglyphs reveal something stranger. Nephthys, twin sister to Isis, wife to Set, mother of Anubis, one of the 5 gods born before time, was rarely granted a house of her own. Her work was liminal, funerary, mourning, protection at thresholds, indispensable, but almost never center stage. The disturbing part isn't that she was forgotten, it's that she was essential. The Egyptians knew something we've tried to forget. In every system, something has to process what creation leaves behind. Something that carries away what light won't touch. And that something doesn't get temples, or prayers, or thanks. It just gets the grief no one else will hold. To understand Nephthys, we go back to the moment before she existed, when her sister Isis was born and cast the first divine shadow. The sky goddess Nut had been cursed by Ra. No children could be born on any day of the year. But Thoth, calculating Thoth, gambled with the moon and won 5 extra days that existed outside the calendar. Days that technically weren't days, time that wasn't time. And in that impossible space, 5 impossible gods were born. Osiris emerged first, wrapped in golden light. The cosmos itself seemed to inhale. Then came Horus the Elder, already wearing the crown he would never lose. Third, Set tore his way out, leaving Nut wounded. Fourth came Isis, and her first breath reshaped reality around her, magic incarnate. Then, pause. "Where is the 5th? Ra demanded. Thoth pointed to where Isis stood glowing. Then he traced his finger along the wall where that glow ended. There, in the exact shadow Isis cast, something moved, not stepping forward. Shadows don't step. Pooling, taking the shape of what cast it, but inverted, reversed, emptied. Every light casts a shadow, Thoth observed, but his voice carried something rare for the god of wisdom, uncertainty. This one cast herself. They called her Nephthys, Nebet Het, Lady of the House. But whose house? Not her own. She had none. Not Set's. He abandoned her immediately for his desert storms. She was titled as the lady of a house that didn't exist, married to a god who wouldn't look at her, sister to a light that made her invisible by comparison. Early funerary texts pair Isis and Nephthys again and again. Isis acts, Nephthys answers, framing her as the responding voice, the echo that completes the rite. For centuries, she stood behind Isis at every ceremony. When Isis performed the 42 transformations, Nephthys's form shifted 42 times in shadow. When Isis spoke words of power, Nephthys's lips moved silently in perfect synchronization. The priests noticed, of course, but what do you say to a shadow that has nowhere else to fall? until the night Nephthys discovered that being unseen meant no one noticed when you became someone else. The Feast of Inundation should have been perfect. Osiris and Isis on their thrones, hands intertwined, while priests sang of their eternal love. Set had vanished into the Red Land again. Hunting, he claimed, though everyone knew he couldn't bear another celebration of his brother's fertility when his own marriage bed stayed empty. Nephthys stood where she always stood, behind Isis, in her shadow. "Sister," Isis said without turning. She never turned to address Nephthys, just spoke backward. "You could sit. There's a cushion beside." "Shadows don't sit," Nephthys interrupted. "We fall. We pool, we conform, but we don't choose our position." That night something changed. Maybe it was the beer. Maybe it was the 1,000 years of being furniture. Nephthys realized she had mirrored Isis for so long, every gesture, every breath, that she could become her. Not through magic, she had none. Through pure, practiced synchronization. Osiris, drunk on celebration beer, stumbled to his chamber. In the oil lamp's flickering light, a figure waited on his bed. The silhouette was Isis. The posture was Isis. The way she tucked her hair behind her left ear, perfectly Isis. But Isis always spoke first, always said his name like a prayer. This figure waited in silence. The coupling was wordless, but afterward, as Osiris traced her face in the darkness, his fingers stopped. "You're cold." 4 words escaped before Nephthys could stop them. "I've always been cold." The horror in Osiris's eyes wasn't from betrayal, it was recognition. He'd touched a shadow thinking it was light, and worse, he couldn't tell the difference until after. "Why?" he whispered. Nephthys didn't flee. Shadows can't run from what casts them. "You look at Isis every day and see divinity. I wanted to know what it felt like to be seen, even if being seen required being someone else." The child born from that union was Anubis, god of death, born from mistaken identity. In other traditions, Anubis is son of Set and Nephthys. Tonight we follow the version where Nephthys comes to Osiris in Isis's outline. She looked at him once, this jackaled thing that smelled of endings, and left him on Isis's doorstep. Because shadows can't nurture, they can only outline absence. Set's murder of Osiris should have ended everything. Trapped in a coffin of his exact measurements, drowned in the Nile, recovered, then dismembered into 14 pieces and scattered across Egypt. Even gods have limits. But Set had calculated without understanding the 2 sisters he left behind. One with the power to restore, one with the knowledge of decay. Isis searched frantically. 13 pieces found. The 14th, Osiris's phallus, swallowed by a fish, gone. She crafted a golden replacement and began the resurrection ritual. Every word perfect, every gesture precise. The most powerful magic ever attempted, reversing death itself. But the body wouldn't rise. "Something's wrong," Isis told Thoth. "The magic is working, but he's empty." Thoth examined each reconnection point with systematic precision. Then he stopped, stared. "Isis, where is his shadow?" Silence filled the chamber. Divine bodies cast shadows. It's physics, even for gods. But Osiris's reconstructed form cast none. "You collected his body," a voice said from the doorway. "I collected what his body left behind." Nephthys entered, and for the first time in her existence, she wasn't standing in anyone's shadow. She cast 14, each falling in different directions, each a different density of darkness. When Set scattered the pieces, each one lay somewhere, she said, pressed into mud, hidden in reeds, digested in stomach acid. When you pulled them free, you took the flesh. But the impression remained, the absence each piece created in the world. "Give them back," Isis commanded, magic flaring. "Give back absence. Return nothing." Nephthys knelt beside Osiris. "Watch." The 14 shadows she cast began moving independently, each seeking its origin point on the corpse. As they touched, something horrifying became clear. The shadows didn't match anymore. His heart's shadow was older, bearing every judgment's weight. His hand's shadows reached for different things. His head's shadow faced away from his body's shadow. "Death isn't just stopping," Nephthys said. "It's desynchronization. You can force the flesh together, but the absences, the spaces he occupied, remember separation." "Then fix it," Isis cried. "I can't fix nothing," Nephthys said softly, "but I can hold it." And she did. Not restoration. Maintenance. Osiris would live only as long as someone held his absence together. "This is why you were born," Thoth murmured. "To be the keeper of shadows, the one who tends what remains after form fails." Osiris opened his eyes. Green now, the color of things that grow from decay. He looked at Isis with love, but when his gaze found Nephthys, something else appeared. Understanding. "I can't stay in the living world," he said. "The shadows pull differently now." And so he ruled the underworld, because only there could Nephthys maintain him continuously. She became the eternal guardian, not of his life, but of his coherent death. Every soul that would ever die would need her, not to judge like Osiris, not to guide like Anubis, but to hold their shadows together as they transformed from being into having been. The Egyptians built Osiris temples at Abydos. They gave Isis sanctuaries from Philae to Bebet el-Hagar. Nephthys received something else, presence at every funeral. No grand temples, but invocation at every death. Not worshipped, but necessary. The shadow sister who inherited nothing and carried death itself. In art, Nephthys wears a house and basket on her head. Nebet-Het, lady of the house. But look closely. The house symbol is empty, deliberately hollow. She's the lady of an empty house, the goddess of spaces that should contain, but don't. Artists give her night tones and black coal lines, the palette of mourning rather than sunbright golds, a visual shorthand for work done out of the light. The Egyptians understood. Some pain is visible, some hidden, and hidden pain needs a goddess too. In the pyramid texts, she's called the useful goddess. Not powerful, not beautiful, useful. Like a tool you need but never thank. Her usefulness was specific. She appeared at transitions, birth canals, and deathbeds, the doorways between states. Egyptian artists showed her with wings spread, not flying but hovering, suspended between earth and sky, life and death, being and not being. Her wingspan in tomb paintings always matches the length of a human body. She doesn't carry souls away. She covers them during the passage. The kite bird was sacred to her, a scavenger that follows death but doesn't cause it. Circling battlefields not to fight, but to clean. The Egyptians watched kites and understood. Someone has to process what violence leaves behind, to transform carnage into emptiness so life can fill the space again. Her name appears in one haunting ritual, the Lamentations of Isis and Nephthys. Two priestesses performed it. Isis's parts about resurrection and power, Nephtys's about grief and acceptance. The priestess playing Nephthys stood behind a screen, present but unseen, voicing sorrow but never faced. Nephthys wasn't forgotten. She became the thing we refuse to name but can't stop recognizing. She's in the hospice worker who stays through the night shift, not healing, that time has passed, but witnessing, making sure no one transforms alone. You know her in Jung's shadow self, the parts of you that exist but have no sanctioned expression. The love with no proper object, the grief you're not allowed to mourn, the anger with no legitimate target. Nephthys is what happens to empathy when it has nowhere to go. She lives in every system's hidden maintenance, the quiet processes that keep things running. Your computer's garbage collection, memory management, cache clearing, the parts that don't create or compute, but simply handle what creation leaves behind. Delete them, and the system suffocates on its own success. The Egyptians knew every system needs something that processes failure without trying to fix it. Think about your own family. There's always one person who remembers the hard anniversaries, the death dates, the divorces, the day the diagnosis came, who sits with the relative everyone else avoids, who holds the secrets not because they're trusted, but because they don't judge. They don't get invited to weddings. They get called for funerals. In Japan, they have okuribito, those who prepare the dead. In Mexico, rezadoras, women who pray for the departed. Every culture creates a Nephthys, because every culture needs someone who can touch decay without trying to reverse it. Someone who makes peace with endings. The Shadow Sister teaches us something essential. Not everything needs healing. Some things need witnessing. Not everything needs light. Some processes require darkness. Not every god needs temples. Some powers work precisely because they're unworshipped. So why was Nephthys the Shadow Sister who inherited nothing but death? Because the Egyptians understood that every system, cosmic, human, divine, needs a process that doesn't create or destroy, but simply carries away what's finished. Not with judgment, not with healing, just with presence. Nephthys inherited nothing because she was the space into which everything eventually falls. Remember those echoing prayers from the beginning? That isn't worship, it's acknowledgement. The priests knew. You don't pray to shadows. You recognize that shadows exist because light does. You accept that every Isis needs a Nephthys. Every creation needs a process for decay. Every sound needs silence to fall into. She never left. She couldn't. She's there in the pause between heartbeats, in the moment your breath turns from in to out, in the space between the last "I love you" and the final silence. The Egyptians didn't forget her. They knew some powers work better unnamed. You want to know why that echo in Isis's temple continues after the prayer ends? Because Nephthys is still there, repeating words meant for her sister, holding the shadow of every unheard prayer. Being useful, being unseen, being the goddess who inherited nothing, but who makes space for everything else to exist. Next time on Ancient Egypt Uncovered, Heka, the power that commands the gods. Until then, remember, in the silence after sound, something ancient still listens.